Do you know what to say and what not to say when debt collectors call? Do you know that there are certain things that you can say that essentially can put you in a position where it either resets the statutes of limitations and, essentially puts you in a position where they have control over the situation? But during this video, I want to talk about how you can essentially be in control. All right. And so I have my notes here, so you'll be seeing me looking back and forth to my notes, but essentially it's just so I can stay on track because I could ramble on. All right. But my overall goal is to put you in a position to where you can actually protect your rights and your money. All right. Now, a couple of things that we're going to talk about is what you should say to debt collectors over the phone, biggest mistakes to avoid on the phone, and we're going to talk a little bit about the FDCPA and your rights that allow you to be able to do what I'm about to explain to you. Now, once again, everything that I'm about to talk about is not legal advice. All right. This is just educational, and you can literally go online and look this information up yourself. All right. All of my resources are coming from the FDCPA itself. Okay. Whether you want to go on cornell.law.edu, whether you want to go on the actual Congress website and look at the Constitution yourself. But essentially, all of this is out there. And I will tell you to just govern yourself accordingly. All right. So that you're not in a position to where you are affected negatively by doing something you know nothing about. All right. Do your due diligence. So first things first, man, knowing your rights is crucial. That's why I'm very big on talking about the FDCPA, very big on talking about the laws that protect you as a consumer. Okay. So under the FDCPA, man, it explains, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Just to put it plain and simple, I have many videos on the FDCPA, but the debt collectors must follow a specific set of guidelines so that they are not either violating your rights, either they are not harassing you, and they have a grave responsibility as a debt collector to make sure that they are collecting debt in the proper way. Okay. Number two, under the FDCPA, you have a right to dispute debt. Okay. When you look at 15 U.S.C. 1692G, it talks about how to properly validate debt. Okay. It also talks about how to communicate debt. It also talks about how to stop harassment versus debt collectors. Okay. So the information is in the FDCPA. And when you know what to say and when you know how to communicate with debt collectors, you are able to flip the script and essentially control the conversation, control the situation. All right. Just because it goes to a debt collector or just because a debt collector calls you doesn't mean that the solution is to pay. Okay. So what I'm about to talk about, very much, you have a right to do. All right. Okay. So when you get a call from a debt collector, okay, you always want to start by asking for verification. Okay. If they call you, right, one of the first things they'll do is try to confirm who you are, ask for your personal information, things of that nature. But one of the things you want to do is say, who am I speaking with? And what company do you represent? You ask them that question because that is under the FDCPA. You have a right to ask them that question. All right. And number two, what is the alleged debt you are attempting to collect? All right. You want to ask these questions first because you don't want to just immediately confirm your personal information until they provide verification. Okay. So you don't have to tell them any identifying information about you. All right. You don't have to give them any extra information. They have a right. They have a responsibility to answer those very questions. And I would suggest you write these questions down. Who am I speaking with? And what company do you represent? And number two, what is the alleged debt collector, or what is the alleged debt you're attempting to collect? All right. Number four, what you don't say is you never admit or promise to pay any debt. Okay. Now, I'll explain why. Because if you admit to a debt or say that you will pay a debt at a certain point in time, it may reset the statutes of limitations. Now remember, these phone calls are actually recorded, all right? And if on a recorded call you said that you will actually pay them back at any point in time, then they can essentially bring that evidence in court and use that against you, okay? So you never want to admit to a debt that can hurt you, all right? It gives them that leverage, all right? And you don't want them to have any leverage, all right? So this is what I would say instead, okay? I'm not admitting to anything. I am requesting written validation of this debt under the FDCPA 15 USC 1692G, all right? And if you don't know what 15 USC 1692G says, I'll put a quick picture up there, take a quick screenshot, but I will recommend you actually go look up this law and section yourself, all right? Take a quick screenshot. Moving on. Now, after you have essentially confirmed who they was and you did not admit to paying anything and you understand that mindset, we can now dive into requesting written communication, okay? You want to inform them that you prefer a written communication, all right? You'll say something like this. Please send all the details of this debt in writing to my address on file. All right? Why this matters. It prevents verbal miscommunication. It also creates a paper trail to hold them accountable. It's important for you to get written documentation because if you don't get written documentation, the company can take advantage of the fact that we're in this gray area. The next thing that I want to talk about, never give personal or financial information. You should never provide things like your social security number. You should never provide anything about your bank account information or your income details. What you want to say is, I will not provide any personal or financial details over the phone. Please send all the information in writing. This is so that they are not trying to put you in a negative position to where you are giving some identifying information that they can act on. And I always tell people not to give your social security number. Next thing I want to talk about is if they start to get aggressive, right? Or if they start harassing you or saying that you must pay, all right? You want to essentially let them know that you are aware of the FDCPA. You are aware of your rights under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and you'll be willing to report them for harassment. All right. So you would explain to them their limits. All right. You cannot call at odd hours of the day. You cannot call me back to back. All right. They also cannot use abusive or obscene language. All right. And also at the same time, they cannot say things to mislead you. All right. According to 15 USC 1611, they'll be under criminal liability for trying to mislead you. All right. And they cannot threaten legal action that they don't intend to take. So saying things like, if you don't pay your debt, then we'll sue you, or saying anything to actually instill fear into you would be considered unlawful. All right. Another thing I want to talk about, despite, my energy right now, you don't want to act emotionally or agree to an immediate payment, all right? You want to make sure you stay calm and professional, because if you stay calm and professional, then they will stay calm and professional. Those people on that, phone call will actually treat you. Hold up. You want to stay calm and professional, because the person over the phone may treat you a little bit differently if you do. All right. And, you want to stay professional. It's easy to stay calm and professional if you know your rights. That's why I'm so keen on making sure you understand your rights under the FDCPA. Because if you know your rights under the FDCPA, then essentially, it doesn't matter what they say to you. Okay. Do not agree to pay on the spot or negotiate any terms verbally. Make sure that they send things to you in writing, and you are responding back to them in writing when they actually send a letter. So a good thing that you can say is, I'll review the details of this debt once I have received this written validation. You dig me? So focus and hone in on that written validation, because again, by law, this is considered a legal form of communication. All right. Now, just to kind of recap, all right, number one, you want to make sure you ask them this. All right, write this down and make sure you're taking notes. Who am I speaking with, and what company do you represent? That's super important to ask. Second thing, please send all the details of this debt in writing to my address. All right. Number three, I am not admitting to this debt. I'm requesting validation under the FDCPA. And under the FDCPA, there is a specific amount of procedures and a specific amount of questions that they must follow in order for them to be considered validating the debt. All right. Number four, I am aware of my rights and I will report violations if necessary. All right. And let them know that you know who you are, and, essentially make sure you're taking control, because you don't want them to continue to do things that is considered harassment. If they call the next day asking for the debt, that's considered harassment. If they send you another bill and they are not adhering to the FDCPA where you have asked them to validate the debt, and they continue to send bills, that will be another form of harassment. All right. So make sure you have all of that written down. Go back. And, lastly, man, the whole point of me bringing this to the forefront is so that you guys can be able to take debt validation serious, use it to your advantage, use it to be able to clean up your credit reports, use this to be able to put your credit report, consumer report in a better position so that you can get funding. A lot of times we can probably remove negative items off our credit report, but some of us believe that if we have debt on our credit report, we won't be able to move forward. All right. So essentially, for the people that, want to take this further, want to be able to take action, all right, when it comes to the debt discharge process, when it comes to debt validation, down below, I have some links, all right, and you can get the complete debt guide for only $47. Now, to explain what the complete debt guide does, it literally breaks down how to communicate with debt collectors. It has the resources and templates and the letters included. But more importantly, man, you will have my expert coaching and instruction, literally instructed by me. All right. So everything I'm talking about right now, hopefully it empowers you to either take action on your own or do the extra due diligence and check out the accelerated process and the complete debt guide. I appreciate you guys for tapping into my video. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one.